in the voice of Priyanka Chopra. You know, there comes a point in everyone's life where you realize not every fight is yours to finish, not every room is worth staying in, and not every person who enters your story deserves a permanent role. We're taught to hang on, to fix, to prove, to explain. But what we're not taught enough is the art of letting go with dignity, with self-respect, with grace. Because grace is not about staying silent. It's about walking away without becoming what hurt you. Sometimes the most powerful move you can make is not slamming the door. It's quietly closing it behind you, head high, peace intact, never looking back. So today, this message is for anyone who's been made to feel like they had to scream to be heard. You don't. You just have to know your worth and let your exit echo the power your presence always carried. You are not replaceable. Let that sink in. Not just as a cute Instagram quote or something a friend says to cheer you up. Let it settle into your bones, into your truth. Because somewhere along the way, maybe someone made you feel like you were just another face in the crowd, just another voice, just another option. But hear me clearly, you are one of a kind. There is only one you in the billions of people walking this earth. Only one person who's lived your exact journey, who's seen the world through your eyes, who's had your wins, your wounds, your battles, and your breakthroughs. That uniqueness, that's your superpower. And I know the world doesn't always treat us like that. Sometimes people walk away like you didn't matter. Sometimes jobs end, friendships fade, relationships break, and you're left wondering, was I really that easy to replace? But let me tell you something, as a woman who has walked through fire more than once, people's inability to see your value doesn't make you any less valuable. Your story is sacred. Every challenge you've faced, every heartbreak you've healed from, every time you got up when life knocked you down, those are your medals, not your weaknesses. Your scars aren't flaws to be hidden. They're proof that you survived, that you endured, that you refused to be broken no matter what tried to break you. No one else carries your strength the way you do. Think about that for a second. Someone else may have talent, someone else may have beauty, but no one else has your resilience. The way you've learned to smile through pain, the way you've shown up when you wanted to disappear, the way you've loved deeply, even after being hurt. That strength, that's forged through your life's unique fire, and no one can replicate that. See, society teaches us that we have to be more like her, more perfect, more polished, more accepted. But I say, forget that. Don't strive to be more like someone else. Be unapologetically, fiercely, powerfully you, because the world doesn't need another copy of someone else. It needs your authenticity, it needs your rawness, your voice, your story. You weren't made to be part of someone's backup plan. You're not a placeholder. You're not a second option. And if someone walks away thinking they can find another you just like that, let them. Let them go looking. Let them try to recreate what they had with you. They won't find it. Because what you gave came from a place within you that isn't manufactured. It's earned, it's lived, and it's real. You don't have to beg to be chosen. You don't have to audition for spaces where your value isn't recognized. The moment you start believing in your irreplaceable worth, you stop settling for half love, half respect, half recognition. And let's be clear, being one of a kind doesn't mean being perfect. It means being whole. It means embracing every messy, flawed, complicated, glorious part of yourself and saying, this is me, and I am enough. The world will try to box you in. People will try to replace you with someone easier, quieter, less complicated. But that says more about them than it ever will about you. You weren't born to be easy. You were born to be exceptional. And exceptional things aren't always understood right away, but trust me, the people who are meant to be in your life, the people who truly see you, who get you, they'll never try to replace you. They'll know exactly what they found. They'll feel it in your energy, your honesty, your depth. They'll know that someone like you doesn't just walk in every day, and they'll treat you accordingly. So today, if you're questioning your worth, if someone made you feel small, if you've been overlooked or underestimated, stand tall, look in the mirror and remind yourself, I am not replaceable. I am one of a kind. No one carries what I carry. And carry it with pride. Because, darling, you're not meant to be found again. You're meant to be remembered forever. You know what's interesting? Sometimes people will treat you like you're replaceable, not because you lack value, but because they lack vision. Let that sink in. His belief in your replaceability has nothing to do with your actual worth, and everything to do with his limitations. We live in a world where it's far easier to project our own fears and insecurities than to confront them. So, what do people do? They underestimate others. They belittle brilliance. They downplay uniqueness. Because if they admit how powerful, rare, and irreplaceable you really are, then they're forced to confront the fact that they didn't appreciate you, that they lost something extraordinary, and not everyone is ready to carry that truth. Sometimes it's a boyfriend who thought he could walk away and find someone better. Sometimes it's a boss who couldn't see your value until you were gone. And sometimes it's a so-called friend who replaced you like you were nothing but background noise. But hear me when I say this, that kind of dismissal isn't about you. It's a mirror of their own shallow lens. They weren't deep enough to see what you carried. They weren't secure enough to embrace your shine. They weren't strong enough to support your growth. Because to truly recognize greatness in someone else, you have to be standing in your own power. You have to be self-aware enough to celebrate others without feeling threatened, and not everyone can do that. So instead, they diminish, they detach, they move on quickly, not because they've found someone better, but because they're running from what they don't understand. You are not replaceable. But when someone thinks you are, it reveals a lot more about their emotional immaturity than about your actual essence. See, people project. They'll call you too much when they're not enough for your energy. They'll say you're too emotional because they're afraid to feel anything deeply. They'll act like they can do better just to protect their ego from the truth that you were the best thing that ever happened to them, and they blew it. It's human nature, but it's also a reflection of internal fear. And once you understand that, you stop internalizing other people's behavior as a reflection of your worth. You start seeing it for what it really is, a lack in them, not in you. When someone walks away thinking you're replaceable, you don't have to fight to prove your value. You don't have to beg, perform, or convince. You simply rise, you evolve, and you let your absence speak louder than their inability to value your presence ever did. Let's get something clear. You carry substance, depth, energy, realness. You offer something that can't be replicated with a swipe, a hire, or a rebound. You are not just a role that can be refilled. You are a whole experience, emotional, spiritual, intellectual, and energetic. And some people, they won't get it. They'll fumble you because they weren't ready for the level of truth and intensity you brought into their life. They'll replace you with something that looks shiny on the surface, but lacks the soul you carried. And that's okay, because life has a funny way of revealing truth in silence, in distance, in time. Eventually, people see the difference between connection and convenience, between attention and intention, between someone who just shows up and someone who truly sees them. And when that realization hits, it hits hard. So no, you don't need to retaliate. You don't need to dim yourself to fit back into spaces that couldn't hold you. You don't need to lose sleep over people who never saw your magic. You just need to remember who you are. You are a soul that cannot be duplicated, a journey that can't be compared, a presence that lingers far longer than it was ever appreciated. So if someone treats you like you're replaceable, let them try. Let them search. Let them settle. And while they do, you rise into a higher version of yourself, not out of revenge, but out of reverence for your own value. Because, darling, you were never the one lacking. You were just standing in front of someone who couldn't see the masterpiece right in front of them because they were too busy trying to protect their own fractured ego. And that's not your burden to carry. Let me tell you something that I've learned. Sometimes the most powerful wake-up calls come dressed as rejection. There will be moments in your life where someone, maybe a partner, a boss, a friend, will make you feel undervalued. They'll talk over you, overlook you, or make decisions that make you question your worth. And it hurts, let's not pretend it doesn't. But here's the thing you must remember. Being undervalued is not a sign for you to shrink. It's a sign for you to rise. You see, life has a way of showing us what no longer serves us. And when you're dismissed or underestimated, it's not because you're not enough. It's often because you've outgrown the space you're in. It's the universe nudging you, saying, hey, there's more for you. Don't settle here. But what do we usually do? We internalize it. We start to think, maybe we were the problem. Maybe we weren't good enough, smart enough, lovable enough. We start shrinking. We try to squeeze ourselves into smaller versions, more palatable, more quiet, more agreeable versions, just to feel seen again, and that's where we go wrong. Because rejection is not always a punishment. Sometimes it's a redirection. And feeling undervalued, that's your cue. Not to get smaller, but to step into your power. To remind yourself who you are even when others forget, especially when others forget. Let me ask you this. Why should their failure to recognize your worth make you forget it too? Think about that. Their lack of vision doesn't change your brilliance. Their inability to appreciate you doesn't erase your essence. And their dismissal? That doesn't define you, it defines them. We don't rise because people clap for us. We rise because we believe in ourselves when no one else does. We rise because we refuse to let someone's short-sightedness shape our story. Yes, rejection can sting. It can shake your confidence. But instead of letting it chip away at your self-worth, let it awaken your self-respect. Self-doubt says, maybe they're right about me. Self-respect says, maybe they never truly saw me. There's a difference. Let their underestimation light a fire within you. Let their silence push you to speak louder. Let their choice to overlook you become the reason you step into the spotlight with even more purpose. Because here's a truth I live by. You don't need to be validated to be valuable. Stop waiting for someone else to see your greatness. Start living like you know it's already there. The job that didn't work out, the relationship that fell apart, the friend who faded away, that wasn't a loss, it was a lesson. A lesson that says, you will no longer shrink to fit places that weren't designed for your light. Your purpose was never to stay small so others could feel big. Your journey was never meant to be dictated by people who can't handle your presence. So stop editing yourself for people who don't even read your full story. And yes, it will take courage. Choosing to rise when you've been knocked down always does. But rising doesn't mean shouting to prove your worth. Sometimes it just means walking away with dignity, holding your head high and saying, thank you for showing me that I deserve better. Because you do. You deserve to be seen, to be heard, to be celebrated, not just tolerated. So if someone undervalues you, don't waste your breath explaining yourself. Don't beg to be understood. Don't fight for a seat at a table where you were only ever meant to pass through. Instead, build your own table, create your own lane. Pour your energy into people and places that honor your presence, not question it. Let every rejection remind you that you are not defined by someone else's inability to recognize your worth. You are defined by how fiercely you choose to remember it yourself. So rise, not to prove them wrong, but to prove to yourself that you never needed their permission in the first place, because you are more than enough. to remain in the light and contemplation, to reflect farther and further, to make rules, not to prove them wrong, but to prove to yourself that you are not the world's belongings. You are not the world's belongings. You are, and being undervalued, that's just a detour on the road to becoming unforgettable. Let's talk about something that hits deep. Being treated like you're disposable, like you were just convenient for a moment, like your presence, your love, your time were optional. It hurts. It makes you question everything, your worth, your choices, even your identity. But here's the truth I want you to hold on to tightly. You were never meant to fit into places that see you as disposable. You are not a temporary fix. You're not an afterthought. You are not something that can be replaced, rebranded, or recycled. You're a whole force. You're light, energy, depth, and presence. And if someone, somewhere, couldn't see that, it doesn't mean you're not valuable. It just means they weren't capable of holding your power. And that's not your failure, that's their limitation. We live in a world that's fast-paced, transactional, and honestly, at times, shallow. People are quick to consume and discard, data judge not just products, but people too. They love the idea of you until you become too real, too powerful, too much. And suddenly, you're too intense, too emotional, too ambitious. But let me tell you something, your too muchness is your magic. You were never meant to be digestible for people who thrive on mediocrity. So when a door closes, when someone walks away, when you're excluded, overlooked, or even replaced, it's easy to think it's a punishment, that you failed, that you weren't enough. But what if it's not rejection? What if it's protection? Some doors close, not because you're being cut off from something great, but because something greater is trying to make its way into your life. Something aligned, something worthy of your power. Because the truth is, you can't expand in rooms that shrink you. You can't evolve in environments that treat you like an option. You can't find peace where you're constantly proving your value just to be tolerated. The doors that shut, the relationships that fell apart, the opportunities that slipped away, maybe they didn't reject you, maybe they were clearing the path. Because sometimes, when we stay too long in places that don't see us, we begin to forget who we are. And you, my love, are not forgettable. You are not here to blend in, you're here to stand out. You're not meant to chase people who don't know how to receive you. You're meant to walk in your power and let the right people gravitate toward your light. You know, I've had moments in my life where I thought a closed door was the end of everything. A job I didn't get, a person I loved who left, a room I was left out of. And in those moments, it felt like the world was saying, you're not enough. But years later, I realized those doors were closed for a reason, because I was meant for more, because those rooms were too small for the woman I was becoming. And you are becoming something too. You're becoming someone who doesn't settle for being half seen, someone who doesn't tolerate disrespect disguised as honesty, someone who knows their energy is a privilege, not a consolation prize. So don't mourn every closed door. Don't beg to be let back in. Don't dim yourself just to squeeze into someone else's limited vision of you. Instead, bless the door, thank it for the lesson, and walk away with your head held high, your heart intact, and your power untouched. Because when one door closes, it's not the end of the story. It's a redirection. And the next space you step into, it's going to be bigger, brighter, and more aligned than anything you were asked to shrink for. And when you get there, when you walk into the room that was always meant for you, you'll realize that losing what was never yours wasn't a loss. It was a liberation. So no, you are not disposable. You are not forgettable. You are not replaceable. You are divinely designed to thrive in spaces that see you, honor you, and grow with you. And any door that doesn't open for that wasn't meant for you in the first place. It's a strange truth of life. We often don't realize the value of something until it's no longer there. And that includes people. You know, you can give your time, your energy, your love, your loyalty, everything to someone or something, and still be taken for granted. You show up consistently, you give without keeping score, you support even when you're exhausted, and somehow it still feels like no one truly sees you. But here's the powerful part. Your absence will echo louder than your presence was ever appreciated. We live in a world that's constantly distracted, constantly moving. People are quick to assume you'll always be there, always available, always willing, until one day you're not. And suddenly, your silence speaks volumes. Suddenly, they remember the warmth of your presence. Suddenly, the conversations feel duller. The space feels colder. The laughter doesn't come as easily because what was once normal was actually extraordinary. But they only realize it when it's missing. That's the irony, isn't it? We often become the background music in someone's life, something they enjoy but rarely pay attention to until the music stops. And then the silence becomes deafening. You are that music, that light, that presence that lifted the room even when you didn't realize it. But you're not here to spend your life reminding people of your worth. You're not here to beg for acknowledgement or to chase after those who couldn't value what they had when they had it. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is walk away, not in bitterness, but in clarity. Because when you remove yourself from a place that couldn't appreciate your presence, you give them the gift of perspective. And trust me, they'll feel it. That boss who overlooked your efforts until the team started falling apart without you. That friend who only called when they needed something and now wonders why your phone's no longer ringing. That partner who thought they could do better, only to realize that better doesn't mean real. Your absence becomes the lesson. Your silence becomes the teacher. Your decision to step back becomes the mirror they never wanted to look into. And that echo, that undeniable shift that follows your departure, isn't about revenge. It's not about proving a point. It's about reclaiming your space, your peace, your value. Because the truth is, your energy is sacred. Not everyone deserves access to it. Not every room is worthy of your light. Not every person can carry the weight of your authenticity. So when you feel unappreciated, when you've said all there is to say and your presence still feels invisible, know this: you're not invisible. You're just too powerful for people who only know how to recognize value once it's gone. And that's not your burden to carry. It's their lesson to learn. You have to stop watering gardens where nothing grows. You have to stop pouring into cups that only know how to take. You have to realize that being available to everyone is the fastest way to forget your own worth. Let your absence speak, not out of pride, but out of respect for yourself, for your time, for the woman or man you are becoming. Because the ones who truly see you won't need your silence to realize your value. They'll treasure your presence in real time. They'll protect it, nurture it, and never let it feel disposable. And those who didn't, let them miss you. Let them sit in the space you once filled with kindness, strength, love, laughter, patience, and grace. Let them face the silence that follows when a real one leaves. Because that silence, it's not emptiness. It's your power echoing in the void they never thought would exist. You were never just a presence. You were an experience. And experiences like you aren't easily replaced. So the next time you wonder if anyone notices your absence, trust this: they will. Because the true weight of your presence will always be revealed, not when you're there, but when you're gone. And by then, it won't be your problem anymore. Let's be honest, we've all had those moments where we feel like we need to prove something, prove our worth, prove our strength, prove that we're not who they said we were. Said Sutton, somewhat worried. It's tempting, right? Especially when someone's doubted you, dismissed you, or walked away thinking they were trading up. But let me tell you something straight from the heart. You are not here to prove anything to anyone. You are here to evolve. You weren't placed on this earth to beg for acknowledgement. You weren't designed to chase validation from people who lack the capacity to see your potential. Your life isn't a courtroom where you're constantly making a case for your greatness. It's a journey, a transformation, and the only person you need to impress is the person you were yesterday. See, when someone wrongs us or underestimates us, the first instinct is to get loud, to retaliate, to show them what they lost, to make them regret. But here's the secret. The best kind of revenge doesn't make noise. It grows. It flourishes. It radiates so powerfully that the people who once overlooked you can't help but notice, even from a distance. That's the kind of revenge that matters. Not bitterness, not drama, not proving. Progress every time you choose to elevate instead of retaliate. You are choosing yourself. You're saying, I don't need to win the argument. I'd rather win my peace. I don't need to make them see. I'll just let them watch from afar. I don't need to go backward to prove a point. I'm too busy moving forward. Because the truth is, growth is quiet. It happens in moments when no one's watching. When you're reading that book, taking that class, healing that wound, setting that boundary, when you're rising earlier, showing up stronger, learning to love yourself deeper, that's the kind of power that doesn't need to announce itself. It's felt, it's seen, and eventually, it's undeniable. You don't owe your evolution to anyone who caused your pain. You owe it to yourself. Because they might have hurt you, but you get to decide what that hurt turns into. Will it become a chain that weighs you down, or a ladder that lifts you up? Let it lift you. Use every bit of pain as fuel, every rejection as redirection, every heartbreak as a push closer to the version of you that no longer breaks in the same places. Let the people who doubted you see you from a distance, not because you need them to applaud, but because you're too elevated to even need their presence. That's when the real shift happens. That's when the silence becomes golden. Because when you evolve without saying a word, your very existence becomes a response. They'll hear the absence of chaos and wonder how you got so still, so focused, so free. And you won't even need to say, look at me now, because your life will speak for itself. So stop shrinking to explain. Stop chasing to prove. Stop revisiting chapters that already gave you the lesson. Instead, evolve. Evolve so boldly that your past self would be in awe of who you've become. Evolve with grace, with intention, with unapologetic clarity. Because here's what I know. The ones who try to break you are never expecting you to rebuild stronger. They're not prepared for your rebirth. They don't know how to handle your glow up. But that's not your concern. Your job isn't to go back and show them. Your job is to keep going so far forward that they can't catch up. So let them underestimate you. Let them misjudge your silence. Let them believe they've seen the last of your magic. And then let your evolution be the masterpiece that changes the whole narrative. Because you, my love, were never meant to stay the same. You were always meant to grow, to rise, to transform. You were not here to prove, you were here to evolve. And your growth, that's the kind of revenge they'll never recover from. You know, in life and love, some people will leave you with a parting message, spoken or silent, that says, you're replaceable. Maybe it's the way they moved on without a pause. Maybe it's the way they compared you to someone new. Maybe it's just the feeling they left you with, that you didn't matter as much as you thought you did. But let me make this clear. Replacing you may seem easy in his eyes, but matching your essence, that's a whole different story. We live in a world that's obsessed with replicas. Looks can be mimicked, style can be copied, skills can be taught, accents can be practiced, Instagram bios can be matched, but your essence, the way you love, the way you walk into a room, the energy you bring, the heart behind your actions, that can't be recreated. You see, you didn't just offer something visible, you offered something vibrational. That smile that masked your silent support, that patience you held when he was falling apart, that belief in him when he doubted himself, that unique blend of fire and softness only you could carry. That's not a template. That's not something he can plug into a search bar and order on demand. Because while someone may match your skills on paper, they'll never match your soul. Skills can be copied. Souls can't. And the truth is, He may not see it right away. People rarely do, especially when they're chasing surface level distractions. They often mistake shiny for valuable, loud for loyal, new for better. But time always reveals the truth. Eventually, the glow wears off. The mask slips. The illusion breaks. And that's when he'll remember not what you did, but how you made him feel. And that feeling, it's not easy to replace. You are not just a role in someone's life. You're not a placeholder or a stepping stone. You are a presence. And when a presence like yours exits, it leaves behind a void that echoes. And let me say this, it's not your job to hope he realizes it. It's not your duty to stay available in case he comes to his senses. Your worth isn't tied to his recognition. Your essence isn't dependent on his awakening. If he couldn't see it when you were right there giving your all, chances are even his regret won't be enough to reach the level of who you've now become. That's the beautiful part of letting go. You don't just leave behind a version of you. You grow past it, you evolve, you rise into a space where you no longer crave validation from the ones who misjudged your depth. You begin to understand that being rare often means being unrecognized, until absence does what presence never could. And one day, maybe not today, maybe not next week, but one day someone will see you and they won't just be attracted to your image or your talent. They'll feel your essence. They'll honor it. They'll protect it. Because the right soul will know that you're not someone to be replaced. You're someone to be held, cherished, and grown with. Until then, don't waste your time trying to be understood by someone who's already decided you're replaceable. Let them have their illusions. Let them chase what sparkles. You keep shining. Because you carry something no one else can. You're not just a woman or a man with potential. You are a soul with purpose. You don't need to fight to be seen. You just need to keep being. Keep becoming. Keep walking with your head high, knowing that your essence is a language only the right hearts can understand. So if someone couldn't match it, don't lower it. Don't dim your light just because they wore sunglasses. Don't shrink your depth for someone who can't swim. Replacing you might be easy for them, but living without your soul's energy, that's a different kind of loneliness. They won't be able to name. Let them feel it. And you keep growing, you keep glowing, because you're not the one who lost. You're the one who got away. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply walk away. Not with noise, not with anger, not with the need to be understood or defended, but with grace. Because grace isn't weakness. It isn't silence. It isn't avoidance. Grace is strength, under control. It's knowing you could unleash the full truth, the full pain, the full storm, but choosing instead to carry your dignity like a crown and exit the space that no longer deserves your light. And look, I get it. When someone hurts you, when they underestimate your presence, your loyalty, your love, it's tempting to leave in flames, to make them feel what they made you feel, to expose everything, to throw back the same energy they gave you. But let me ask you something. Why let them decide how your story ends? Your power isn't in how loud you leave. It's in how completely you reclaim yourself. Walk away with grace, because grace isn't about making them comfortable. Grace is about making yourself free. You don't have to become bitter to be strong. You don't need to destroy the room on your way out to prove you mattered. Your presence was already powerful, and your exit can be even more. Sometimes we confuse closure with confrontation. We think we need one last conversation, one last explanation, one last scene that proves we were right and they were wrong. But you don't. You don't need their understanding to validate your truth. You don't need their apology to begin your healing. You just need the courage to leave with your soul intact. Because when you leave with grace, you send a message without saying a word. I may be walking away, but I'm not walking down. I'm walking up. I'm walking into better. I'm walking home to myself. You know, people will remember how you exited more than how you entered. Your last chapter with them becomes the most vivid memory. And when you leave with peace instead of drama, with clarity instead of chaos, with strength instead of resentment, they'll feel it. They'll sit with the silence, they'll feel the shift in energy. They'll remember that you didn't burn the bridge. You just chose not to keep crossing it alone. And if they ever grow enough to look back with honesty, they'll see your grace for what it truly was. A final act of love. Not for them, but for you. Because choosing grace doesn't mean you weren't hurt. It means you healed enough not to let pain define your response. It means you're rising above the level of betrayal, not sinking into it. It means you know who you are, and you no longer need to scream it across a battlefield you never asked to be part of. Let your exit be as powerful as your presence. Because your presence, your energy, your time, your love was never ordinary. You didn't show up halfway. You gave fully. You loved deeply. You stood tall. You brought light. And if they couldn't hold that, if they couldn't honor that, you don't need to fight to prove it anymore. Let your exit say everything. Let your absence become the reminder. Let your peace be the punctuation mark. Let your silence be the final sentence. Because people don't forget the ones who left without bitterness. They don't forget the ones who didn't need to win the argument to win their freedom. They don't forget the ones who left the door without slamming it, just quietly locking it for good. That's not weakness. That's evolution. So next time you find yourself at a breaking point, whether in a relationship, a friendship, a job, a situation that no longer serves your growth, don't ask, how can I make them understand? Ask, how can I honor myself as I leave? Because at the end of the day, the goal isn't just to walk away. It's to walk away whole, with grace, with power, and with a heart that knows it gave everything without losing itself in the process. Thank you, take care, and goodbye.